Hello and welcome to Tuesday's training. Now we're doing something a bit different today, and I'm going to do this every Tuesday from now on. We're going to do Tuesday training from inside the Can Do Equine training to give you a bit of a look around and show you how you can use it. So to kick us off, I'm going to discuss today what you do with the new horse. So you get your new horse home, you love your new horse. Where do you start? There's so much you need to do. So the first thing to do, hello Michelle, is to work out where your horse is. So let's just imagine that the horse that we bought and we brought him home is the grey horse you can see on the front page of my website here. So there's the horse. Isn't he gorgeous? Now, at the moment, the horse is still the horse on the left. So that's the way he's traveling. He's got his head in the air. He's got quite a hollow back. His ears don't look very happy. And the rider's looking to be holding quite a lot of tension on the rein there. What we want to do is turn him into the horse on the right, where he's nice and soft and round, and his ears are more forward. He looks much happier, and he's round at his back. So that's what we want. So we've got to work out how to get from one picture to the other. So what I want you to do is you would go into your library, just under here, my library, and pick, of course, the horse training course, because that's what we're doing. Now, once you get in here, the first thing you want to look at with this grey horse of ours, what we want to do is get that horse into the engagement zone. Do you remember I've talked before about having the bubble of communication? And the biggest problem with this horse at the moment is that he's very stiff and possibly anxious, but he's very stiff and sort of braced against the rider. So what we want to do is start really communicating with the horse. And we have to know how the horse is learning, how his emotional level is, and these sorts of things before we can start putting anything much on the horse. So come along to this module here, which is talking all about the engagement zone. And what I'll show you in here is, first of all, how to assess your horse's emotional level. And this is really important, and it's something that's often ignored, because we often just sort of think, oh, look, a horse is a horse and that they're all the same, but they're not. Some horses are much more naturally, much more emotional than other horses. And we need to make sure that the horse is at that level of emotion that is engaging. So, we go back to the classroom. So you remember when you're at school and you had a teacher that yelled all the time. I had a maths teacher like that, and he used to just shout and yell all the time. He was dreadful, and nobody learnt anything because we were all terrified of him. Then we had another one, my English teacher, I think she was, and she was so boring. She spoke in a monotone like this, terribly dull. And again, we didn't learn anything. We were all staring out the window, and we were, enjoying ourselves, but we weren't learning a thing. Now, the thing about being your horse's trainer is that you have to get that emotional level right. And so when your horse is standing in the paddock, it's at a sort of very neutral emotional level. So if we were to measure emotional level out of 100, the horse standing in the paddock would be at about a 50. And the horse that was bored might even go down to, 40 or something. A scared horse might be 70. So there's got to be a place in there, maybe around 60, where your horse is more emotional than it would be if it was standing in the paddock, but not so emotional that it's scared. And that's that teacher that you had at school that was really engaging, that was telling you really interesting things. And that's what we want to be with our horse. And I know that when you come across a horse that's very emotional, it's tempting to, oops, I wasn't expecting that to have sound. It's tempting to to always try and quieten the horse down. But the problem with that is the horse, if it's quietened down all the time, it's not actually learning. The horse starts to learn when we raise and lower the emotional level. And that's what training is all about. Training is all about learning to raise and lower the emotional level. So let's say our grey horse was really emotional. So when we came out, the grey horse is rearing or, you know, trying to run off or something like that. We then have to say, okay, well, we need to really engage this horse. So we might actually need to raise his emotional level just a little bit so we can learn to lower it. The thing is, you're never going to just learn to lower your horse's emotional level. You always have to bring it up before you can bring it down. Anyway, so once we've done that, we're going to look quickly with our grey horse through all these other lessons about shaping the behavior and the training principles. And that's a really good place to start with any new horse or any horse that you're bringing in after a break. You know, go through these lessons with it and just make sure that you are really getting a good picture of where your horse is emotionally now, and then how you can start building that bubble of the engagement zone. So once we're ready to do that, I move on with all my horses to give to the bit. Now, we saw with the grey horse that its head was very high. It was very braced against the rider's rein. It was very hollow backed. And so it didn't look like a lot of fun to ride. So what it needs first is this nice, soft, round frame that give to the bit will get you. And so I would come straight here with that horse and start working through these lessons. There's a full-length lesson there that you can just watch at one sitting. It's about an hour, but it's worth watching before you begin with these. With all of my training, you'll find that the smaller lessons, these videos are quite short. They usually describe things that people have a lot of trouble with when they're training in clinics. So these usually address things that people ask me a lot. So, you know, the handler position, well, this is all very well. Where do I stand exactly? You know, where do I want the horse's head exactly? And this is an interesting question, because if we think back to our grey horse, that horse was going to be a dressage horse. Now, you might want your horse's head in a slightly different position if you're training a Western pleasure horse, for example. You might want the head lower. And that's entirely up to you, and you can find out how to train that in this video here, which talks all about head position. So really, if we think back to the training principles themselves, you control where your horse's head elevation will be by releasing the rein at the elevation that you're after. So right here with this little horse, you can see I'm going to pick up pressure on that rein, and I'm just demonstrating here, I don't want to pull his head around. So that's not what it's about. Give to the bit isn't about pulling the head around. What I want to do, he was scratching on me. There's a dear little thing, this one. What I want to do is just hold enough pressure till the horse comes off that pressure, and then reward for this. The owner of this horse was having particular trouble because the horse kept coming around and rubbing on her. And so I was just showing her how she could stand to help that. So we just go back to these courses. Right, so once you start working on give to the bit, you've then really got your horse into that engagement zone. So these are the most important lessons in that in the module there, and then you can move on to teaching all these other things. I've worked a system so that it works from the very first welcome video, which will tell you how to navigate your way through, all the way right to the end, which is, I'll just show you quickly while we're here. You've worked through the first saddling, long reining, habituation to novel objects, And then we've got the specialist courses, of course, for the young horse and the canter and off the track, working equitation. And there's a big resources section as well. And you'll find various things in the resources section, as well as articles and things like that. Anyway, so I hope you enjoyed a quick look through here. I think next time we'll come back and have a look at things we can do for our horse. Once we've got it, we've sort of discussed give to the bit, and where we go to then. Once we get the horse nice and soft and round and in the engagement zone and listening to us, really we can do anything we like. But first we need to change the picture on the left to the picture on the right. Anyway, thanks for coming, and I will see you tomorrow with our, what have we got tomorrow? Hump Day, the bucking horses. If you've got a bucking horse, have a problem with a bucking horse, just let me know and I'll talk about that, or any other behavioural problem is suitable for Hump Day. Leave me a message in the comments and I would love to hear from you. Bye.